afternoon, good evening. Um, what a good buddy of mine came and he spoke to you not too long ago, and he was like, "Man, you've got to go." He said, "They're some of the warmest folks. You will enjoy it. You will be enriched as much as hopefully you are blessing them by your presence and what you have to say." And definitely from that was amazing. So thank you for sharing that with me and with us. I would tell you that I probably have the most average story. I'm talking plain, vanilla, white loaf of bread kind of story. I'm the typical kid who grew up, went to church every Sunday morning, Sunday nights, caught a focus group, a Bible study through the week. Anytime something else was going on, I was there. That's me. Standard. And I think that's how I was always taught. That's how Christians should be, right? That defines a Christian. So then I left home. I went to college. And I know what you're all thinking. I'm about to tell you some crazy story about what happened in college. Now I fell completely off the wagon. That's not what happened. So I went to college and I met a girl. Because that's the other thing you do in college. You either make horrible mistakes or else you meet a girl, and that's a wonderful thing to do. So I met a girl, my then girlfriend, now wife. And, we were hanging out. I was getting to know her. She seemed awesome, right? Like up and above anything else. And my mom had a problem because she said, "You don't call home anymore. You call her all the time." So it was an issue there. But besides that, as our relationship continued to grow day by day, we had all these things in common that I was finding out. We had music in common. We listened to Pearl Jam. Does that date me? No? Okay, we listened to Pearl Jam, and we were big fans of Nirvana. There you go. I saw your head rocking. And, there was all this cool music that we liked to listen to. And I thought, this is awesome, right? It didn't take long before I noticed, though, that what we did not have in common was the thing that I grew up with that probably had the strongest impact on my life. Like, we didn't have Jesus in common. We did not have the Lord in common. Now, she was much like, I'd say, most people are, Most people say, "I'm a Christian." Most people say, "Oh, I'm into the Lord." Most people are somewhere come Sunday, so we can all check the box or stamp something and say, "I'm in." And she was one of those people as well. But I kind of became like the fun killer, And Sunday nights when I'd disappear, "Where are you going?" "Well, I got this Bible study we're going to go do over here in this neighborhood or something." And she'd be like, "Well, why would you do that? You did it this morning, And through the week, I'd say, "Oh, I met these guys from class, and we're going to get together, and we're going to study the Bible again." Yeah, it's cool." And she's like, "In what way?" So that continued. And it wasn't long before she finally just broke down, and she was like, "Listen, I got to know. What is this thing you're into? Is it a cult? I mean, what are you doing? Because apart from the normal person, you are showing up way too much to that place we call church and doing way too much of that thing that we call like reading the Bible." And I started to give her the answer. The standard, I'm a Christian answer. This is what we do. I'm a Christian. Christians go to church. And, I think it was one of the first times it hit me that the answer I was about to give her, I wasn't even sure if I believed in it. I was about to say, we go to church because we're Christians. And then it hit me that I wasn't quite sure if all the stuff I'd been doing, that I was doing because God asked me to do that, Jesus required it of me, or if I was just doing it because I wanted to do it. And that is the situation I think we sometimes find ourselves in. We walk down this road and then we find out that we're doing stuff that it may not even necessarily be the way Jesus asked us to do it. So John chapter 14 and verse number 15 kept ringing in my head, right? "If you love me, you will keep my commandments." And I thought, man, yeah, I hear you. In 15:14, "You are my friend if you do what I've asked you to do." thought, okay, that's what I'm doing, but I don't know, what was that, Jesus, that you asked me to do? Because for years I've been told, right? I did what mom told me to do. I did what dad told me to do. I did what the preacher told me to do. I did what the youth group minister told me to do all this time. And that's what I'd done. But at no point had I ever sunk in and actually started looking and trying to investigate and see what it was that I needed to do. And then it was about that time that a good buddy of mine said, man, look at what Jesus told the disciples to do. He said, have you ever looked at the end of the Gospels and in Mark 16? Have you ever looked at Matthew 28? Have you ever just took a look at what he asked them to do? To teach the gospel, to preach the gospel. Did you ever think about that? And let me tell you something. That was a foreign concept. Because that went over and beyond showing up on Sunday morning, right? And then it was when I gazed into Matthew chapter 28, around verse number 18, and I saw that what Jesus said that we should do is make disciples. Interesting. Well, I mean, I considered myself a disciple, but here was Jesus telling me to teach them the things that he had taught them. There was Jesus telling them to baptize them in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. That's what Jesus was telling them. And then at last telling them that he would be with them until the end of the age. And that's the part that I always heard. He's going to be with me to the end of the age, but I didn't back up and see all the other stuff. He said, I'm going to be with you. These are the things that I really need you to do. And not to have salvation, but because you are saved. You are redeemed. So, I said, if I'm supposed to make disciples, and here is someone in front of me asking me this question, should I make her a disciple? And that's about the time that I realized that I myself wasn't much of a disciple, but I was a big fan. You know the difference? I was a big fan of Jesus because I had the bumper sticker. You guys have the fish on your car? I had the fish, had 3 of them, right? Just to make sure on all angles you could view it. T-shirt, had the cap that said I had a T-shirt that had the bumper sticker on the car. I had it all. If anybody said, are you a Christian? Yes, I am. They were like, no, I wanted to know if you were going to the party tonight. Oh, I'm on it. But Jesus is more than to be said or to be written on a shirt or on a bumper sticker. It is to be lived. That's why he said, I need you to be a disciple. And then when Jesus goes on to say, listen, they'll know that you're my disciples by the way that you love one another. Now, I was hearing all this because I'm thinking, yeah, I love Jesus. And yeah, I love other people. So this is easy. I'm obviously a disciple. But I wasn't making the connection between loving others, loving Jesus, and keeping his commandments. He was commanding me to go and make disciples, and that's how I showed Jesus that I loved him. The bumper sticker was cool, but that wasn't showing Jesus that I loved him. And the T-shirt was awesome, but that wasn't showing him that I loved him. But it was when I started actually walking and talking and living the way was I going to be able to show him that I loved him. There's a piece of me, I guess, that understands redemption in a different sort of way, I guess I always did. I thought about, like when you get a free coupon or you get a raffle ticket or you get a Starbucks gift card. I'm naming all these awesome things that you gave away. That was awesome. I wished I'd put my hand in the pile for the Starbucks gift card. You go to a counter, right, and you take this gift card and you slide it up there and you're like, there you go. Now I want the free thing that you owe me, right? That's the way we see it. You owe me. Why? Because I've got this card. Or because I've got X, Y, or Z. Sometimes that's how we view redemption. But the version that Jesus lays out is so much different. The version that God has provided for us is so different. There's a writer I like to read what he writes, and I know he describes it as, imagine that there was a dam that was flooded with water, and we were all standing in front of the dam, and we were watching the water race toward us, and we're all holding hands going, this is it, right? And it's coming down, and it's just about to hit us, and right before it does, a giant chasm opens and swallows all the water down. Like, that's starting to understand it, but not quite. I want to tell you that it's more like this. It's more like you're standing in traffic. If you've ever been to Europe, you know, you get completely confused about if it's right or if it's left or where do I go. If you were standing in traffic, looking that way, and a bus was coming full speed at you from your back, and you didn't hear it, and you definitely didn't see it. You're completely distracted by all the cares in the world, distracted by everything else that's going on, because we're busy, right? Distracted, busy, being a Christian. And right before the bus hit you, it is equal to what Paul says in Romans 3:23 and 6:23, where he tells us that we've all sinned, we've all fallen short of the glory of God. He tells us that what we deserve is death. That is the way this goes. So what we would deserve in this moment is death. But in that moment, Jesus races in. And listen to this. He doesn't just push us out of the way. Because that's the redemption that we're used to. You are giving me what you owe me. But he doesn't push us out of the way. He pushes us out of the way and gets hit by the bus. He got hit by the bus. And that's the story of redemption that I had to now relay back to the girl who asked me, well, why are you doing all that crazy stuff? But the last scripture that hit me was what Jesus says in Matthew 7 from verse 23. He says, not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven. Are you serious, Jesus? Because Jesus was talking to religious people when he said that. He wasn't talking to the people that everybody else thinks should not go. No, he's talking to religious people. And he says, not everyone who says, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven. But he who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. Jesus Christ came down willing to do the Father's will. And here we've been told, or I was told, that I had to do the Father's will. It wasn't going to be my version of church and my version of how I thought I should be saved and my version of how I thought I should be faithful and my version of how I thought that this young lady should come to Jesus. But it was going to be the way Jesus commanded the disciples to be saved, to come into a right relationship with him, to become a baptized believer in Jesus Christ. That is exactly what he said. So, what did I say to the young lady who looked me in the eyes and said, why do you do all these crazy things that you do? After all this thought, I said, because Jesus said so. Because Jesus said so. And the end of the story, she became a disciple of Jesus Christ. And every day after that, she looks for the opportunity to make more disciples of Jesus Christ. Why? Not because she was told to do so on Sunday morning in Vacation Bible School. Not because the preacher told her to do so. Not because a best friend said that's what's in the book. But because Jesus said so. And it is in the book. And it's real. And that is truly the story of redemption. Thank you.